1, 2. Ah, it works. Okay, perfect. Just for the sake of transcriptions. So the whole idea was basically we started it last year, if you remember, and we were quite. I think this. Sorry. Yeah, for the transcribers. So my name is Vladimir Radunovic from Diplo Foundation. And so I ask kindly that every one of you introduce yourself, right? And we will be also noted now in transcripts because Ma will make the note that we were here actually. Okay, so the reason for gathering here was, as we started last year discussing in MAG, to try to have at every IGF the orientation session as one of the main capacity building things for newcomers, and secondly, if we can, a capacity building roundtable. This year we almost slipped it out and we almost were left without it, but we managed to push it at the end to remind. And I think the idea is just to try to gather people that are doing capacity building. Last year we had, I think, like 20 or something people in the room, and it's amazing. I hope some more will show, but if not, we can just try to catch them around. There's so many different programs around. Last year I think we heard about some in India, about cybersecurity, some in Africa, about, I don't know, infrastructure. I think it's really important to try to map what we have, different target groups, different topics, different approaches. It's really trying to make the whole picture of what we have. So what I thought maybe we can discuss today, we don't have to meet each other, I think we know more or less each other, right? But what I thought that we can do is just go through two, well, my idea, but you add please. One is the evaluation of orientation sessions and capacity building track. Is there anything else we can do for the IGF, right? And the other one is where we are with capacity building initiatives, who is doing what, just very briefly, so we catch up. And how can we make it more prominent within the IGF? So at the IGF website, there is one part of the website devoted to capacity building, but thus far there is just a list of e-learning programs by UNDESA, which are, by the way, not really related to IG directly, and I think the links even don't work. Friends of the IGF are working on the website, which is supportive of the IGF Secretariat, and we discussed with them that there we might have a kind of a review of materials, library of materials resources, library of programs, capacity building trainings that exist, so that people can just follow and join what they wish. So these are the two things: orientation session, capacity building track at the IGF is one, and the second one, what we are doing and how we can boost more about capacity building around the IGF. Anything else? Anyone has an idea? Just introduce yourself for the sake of
Hi, this is Olga Cavalli. I don't know everyone in the room, so if maybe we can just that, and then we talk about what you said.
Thanks. Okay, so we go to the right. My name is Vladimir Radunovic. I'm with Diplo Foundation. We do have a capacity building program in internet governance and some of the areas of internet governance specific ones. Combination of online, in situ. We're based in Geneva. We work mostly in developing countries, and that's basically it. Judy.
My name is Judy Okite from FOSFA.
My name is Fatima Cambronero from Argentina. I am MAG member. I am member of the capacity building track of the MAG, and I am a civil society representative. I am belong to the Agencia Argentina. Fatima Cambronero. Fadimar.
My name is Makan Fai from the UN Economic Commission for Africa.
Hello everyone. My name is Veronica Crețu. I come from Moldova. In Moldova I run an NGO that's called Open Government Institute, basically looking at infusing different deliberative democracy, participatory democracy, both online and offline tools for engaging citizens actively in decision-making processes. Also a member of MAG, representing civil society, and very much involved in the open government agenda globally. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Olga Cavalli. Cha-cha. I am a MAG member, and I'm advisor to the government of Argentina, but at the same time, I'm the university teacher at the University of Buenos Aires. So with other colleagues, we have created some training programs in Latin America. We have new programs online, and we have the School of Internet Governance that is organized once a year. And recently, we are involved in some capacity building for women engineers. And I will stop here. Maybe I can tell you about that later.
My name is Adrián Caravaggio, the South School Internet Governance. Sí, soy bien.
I am Angelique Ali Hussein Del Castillo. I'm from Suriname. I'm a MAC member, and I've done a lot with Diplo, and I'm very much involved and interested in capacity building.
My name is Michaeli Naylan. I'm a dirty, filthy registrar. Hi. I'm a registrar and hosting provider from Ireland. And since I'm here for IGF, and this is the only session on the schedule on at the moment, I thought I'd come in just to see what the hell you were all talking about.
Teresa Horeisova from Diplo Foundation, working in the Geneva office.
Thank you all. Rose, can you take a microphone and just present yourself very quickly?
I'm very sorry. Hello, my name is Ifat Rose Gill. I represent an organization called Chunri Chupal. And I work for digital empowerment of women in rural Pakistan.
Thank you. Okay, so let's run quickly, maybe through the first piece of the agenda, which is the capacity building track on the IGF. So this year we had the orientation session again. It was a different format. It was just one day with normal time, starting 9:30, 1.5 hours. The room was quite packed. Seems like most of the reflections were quite positive. Before that we had, and that's innovation, we had webinars. We had one for Latin America, we had one for Africa, we had two for Africa, like French and English, right? And the Latin American one was in Spanish, and we had also an Asia Pacific one. And I really like I would like to thank to three of you, basically, and especially two of you, Fatima and Judy, for pushing all of this, because I think it was really valuable. And besides the orientation session, we had marked the capacity building like workshops at the IGF. Now there are a lot of places for improvements. Let's start maybe with webinars briefly. What are your some of my comments would be that while we managed to do it this time, I think we didn't manage to really bring people which are new to the IGF to the large extent. At least that was my impression. So that might be improving more to try to outreach people which are, even if they don't show up at the IGF, but at least they really hear about the IGF for the first time and have an idea what it is. Any other ideas about before the IGF steps, or how to improve the webinars, or how did it go? Maybe two of you, since you were running the two webinars, can just briefly reflect on that. Judy.
Thank you, Vladimir. My name is Judy. We ran 2 webinars in Africa, the the French and the English versions. I think what came out was people did not understand exactly why we were having the webinars. So instead of discussing the agenda, people were more interested with the funding and how do I get to the main IGF. So yes, I think it will be important that before the IGF, we have the webinars to just educate the society what the IGF is all about. Let them know more, especially about remote participation, that they don't have to be there in person. If there's any funding opportunities, make that as well available for them, that knowledge available for them. And we could do this, we could follow it up even with the other national IGF, with the regional IGF, let them know what is happening, because you come to realize that even when you come to the bigger IGF, you meet people who are from a certain region, but they've never really participated within their regional IGF, and it's very easy for them to say that there's no regional IGF where I come from. Yeah, so that would be my point number one. My point number two would be maybe to bring it down to those who've never attended, the way we always do it for the orientation session. Like if it's your first time in the IGF, then please join us for the webinar, and probably bring it down to maybe have 2-3 sessions and break it down, because I mean, when we had more topics, then it's difficult to run around all of them quickly because these are new people. So I think breaking them down maybe to 3, the first session you could talk about the process and the actors and let them understand who these are, let them ask all the questions. We could have a mailing list where we could keep the conversation going. And then the second session, probably a month later, and going on like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Fatima?
Thank you, Vlada. This is Fatima. In the region of Latin America and Caribbean, we had one pre-webinar in Spanish, and we had around 50 participants in the webinar. In that webinar participate some colleagues from Latin America, some MAG colleagues from Latin America and Caribbean, like Olga and Carolina Aguirre. Angelic also was participating, I think. Angelic, yeah. And to improve for next year, we can organize more than one pre-webinar, and not only in Spanish, but also in English. That there are the 2 main languages in our region. And also, we had a short time to organize the pre-webinar before the LAC IGF and the IGF. And another point to improve for next year is organized with more time to anticipation of the LAC IGF and the IGF. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. This is a good comment also with relation to linking it with the regional IGS. So it would be good if even before the regional IGS we can do the webinars. This year it was really tight, but okay, we introduce it. Is there anyone who participated or wanted to jump in with the suggestions about the webinars, how to improve, or any other yeah, you were also on the webinar, yeah, Angelica.
Yes, if I may. I agree, of course, with what Judy and Fatima brought forth. But when it comes to Suriname, we have a very specific issue, and that is language. The language is usually a threshold for people because it's either English or Spanish, and our language is Dutch. So in the choose of language already, and I understand that we cannot accommodate all languages, of course, but it means that maybe we could also look into having some way of setup that we in Suriname then translate it somehow again back to Dutch, just to involve more people, because my personal experience is I invite people to participate. I tell them it's open and they're interested, but when they hear it's English, I don't even talk about Spanish. When they hear Spanish, then not at all. But when they hear English, you already get that part of the group says, well, you know, they find some excuse not to be there because they think they won't be able to fully participate. So that is one issue. And then I think about informing the people what it is all about. Many people in Suriname don't even know what internet governance means. You know, they wonder. Just this year, I had this article published in the paper. For the first time, they heard about what the IGF really is. So we have to build that up. I think as MAG members, also in our countries, we have to put more emphasis on letting people know, as it was already said, what it really means, what we do here, and that they can be involved in discussing what happens with the internet, and that they don't just have to allow it to happen to them. They can influence decisions by just participating. So that is another thing. And then the remote participation, we also try to set up the agencies to do that for us in Suriname, but we often, last year we had Bali a 10-hour difference, and this year we have 6-hour difference. So by the time we start talking here, they're still sleeping, it's midnight. So that's why they then at the last minute decided not to do that. So we also have to consider those issues, that time differences. So maybe there is options. I see this year there's options of watching it afterwards, but then you cannot send questions anymore. So maybe you could still enlist questions for later, answering them later on, or just taking them to the main final session and discussing them there. And I hope I'm not talking too long, but I have a list. And another thing I was thinking about is the organizing of the workshops. There is a call from MAC early on that people submit their ideas and so on. But when many people, I think they are challenged by the fact they feel that it's a very complex process, and if they've never done it before and they don't know high-level speakers, where will they start? So maybe it would be an idea if we would dedicate some time on that information, in a step-by-step kind of guide. How do you organize it, and assistance in contacting the right speakers? Because oftentimes I think there are ideas floating around, but people are afraid to bring it forward because they're afraid they won't be able to finish the work. So that is on the workshop. And then, of course, let me see. Yes, and then on the same thing goes for setting up a local IGF. I know there is people in Suriname who want to start a national IGF, but they're still not sure how to do it. So they still feel like they don't have enough information and they don't know where to start. So that would also be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica. Quite a number of good proposals when it comes to the process before the IGF. Would you mention awareness either through articles, but also maybe through blogs? And we might discuss it with the IGF Secretariat or the MAG or the Friends of the IGF, that we open a blog on awareness building blog on the website, either of the two, where we might contribute in different languages and try to occasionally update. I don't know.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, this article was actually a result of the blog that Janice started, and then I used that and translated it to Dutch, and I made it into an article, and I made it specific to the questions I know were in Suriname itself, so that it was very specific for them. So it was based on the blog of Janice.
So it's a two-way communication.
Yes.
Good idea. Okay. Any other comments on before Nika?
Thanks, Vlada. Well, a couple of reflections based on the kind of experiences we've had in Moldova in our attempts to participate remotely in different events such as Eurodigo, IGF, or even NetMundial. I think the biggest challenge, as you mentioned, is time difference. And to prevent that challenge, or to address that challenge, we basically used to organize meetings within the country a week or a couple of weeks before the event. It was much easier to mobilize representatives of the government, of the civil society, of the academia to come to participate in the roundtable meeting. But what is important, in order to have people be interested in, you have to address a very particular issue. There should be a problem that people, are keen on, they're looking for solutions, and this is the only motive that will bring them to that particular discussion. As long as it's the kind of general blah, blah, blah thing about what internet governance is, believe me, this doesn't work. So I think before the IGF, there is a whole range of things that could be done. Organizing or mobilizing participants or interested stakeholders around some thematic areas, around some problems, around some issues. And there might be chances for people to be able to gather, regionally and even globally around those problems, around those issues, and we might have more chances to get them more actively engaged in those pre-IGF webinars. But what is also important is that once you had that kind of activity back, in the region or in a particular country, there has to be a mechanism for input that is being generated out of those discussions to be reflected in the IGF itself. If there is that mechanism, as I mentioned, Teresa was there the other day in the Diplo session, if there is a feedback on feedback mechanism, people will not be engaged. They will not participate. Having a post-event kind of interaction, it's useless, because there will be nobody to pick up on those comments or on those questions. It's gone. So you have to gain the momentum and actually build and construct and co-design the IGF with input from within the countries. I think this is one very important element. Another, I don't know, Vlad, if we are going to address separately the orientation session that we had. If that's a separate issue, then that's something I will comment on later. But just to conclude on this issue, there is a great potential to do something more constructive before the events. Remote participation is great, is good. It has to be more interactive, more participatory. But if you want to bring input from within the countries, I don't know, maybe some incentivize, provide some, like with Net Mundial, I remember our Ministry of ICT engaged so actively in the pre-Net Mundial event. We had it a couple of days before it took place in Brazil. But again, input from that discussion, I don't know whether it reached to somewhere, and when they were asking about, okay, so where did comments from Moldova go? There was nothing I could comment back. So I don't know if next time they will be so eager to provide space and organize that. So again, feedback on feedback mechanism is really crucial, and organize discussions around very specific issues, very specific either local or regional problems. I think this is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. If I try to summarize it practically, that means that firstly, running basically the remote hubs, right? The local roundtable, something, but before the events, national, regional, or IGF, and even before the webinar, so that they can crystallize main policy questions and concerns and send, right? And even if it's not the same time zone, then they can see it later on, but they get the response, which is in a way which brings us to connection with remote participation and hubs, the whole procedure of that, but along the process. But then also organizing the national events to help this is a link with national IGFs. So we might try within MAG to somehow link the groups that are working on national IGFs. No one is working on e-participation seriously, unfortunately, but that's something we can do so that we assure this feedback back and forth. Is that?
Yes, and one more element, Vlad, I think it's important that whatever input is being generated, it's being shared with all the moderators and even speakers of the event, because what you would like to see if you follow remotely and you had an event in your country around that particular issue, and you sit there in a room and you watch online, you would like to hear that somebody mentions your country, mentions the problem that has been addressed, mentions the challenges that are being faced, and addresses that particular question to whoever is on the panel. Yes, it's good to have panelists to come with their pre-ready presentations, but it's also very valuable to get their insight on how they see addressing those particular challenges in those particular regions.
Thanks, very precious. Any other comments for pre-IGF capacity building activities, suggestions, comments, within the IGF? Makana, yeah?
Yes, Makan Fai from ECA. Yes, I think we had some technical problems on connecting to the webinar in Geneva or wherever it was. So the first workshop, I did all what I could with using 3 different computers, and none was able to connect. So I don't know what was the issue. The second one, I managed to connect, But I know that there are some colleagues also who are in some places which could not connect also to be able to follow up. So there is a technical problem which we may need to fix for next time.
Thank you, Makane. I know the problem as a problem with WebEx and with sometimes the settings on a computer, and especially with the officials in diplomatic services which have firewalls and stuff. And you're totally right, there needs to be a way forward. There's sometimes, because we have been using webinars, which are a WebEx platform, which is IGF's platform, and sometimes it doesn't work on some computers. There is an Adobe platform and so on, but it costs. So this is something we have to go around, but I totally agree. And maybe even a technical support team or something like that. So well noted, right? Okay, any other comments on that, or should we move to orientation session? Let's move to orientation session now. Yeah, Fatima.
Just a brief comment related to the guys about how organize the workshop or how can participate remotely. We can think about the creation of videos, short videos with instruction to the participants. Maybe it's visual tools that can help to some people. Some idea to discuss.
Thank you. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I would like to just add one comment. I'm assuming that we are talking here about reaching new audiences for IGF as well. So I think I would like to stress on the point that it's really needed. The need is that the topics or the themes that there are, they really need to resonate with the local audience, of course, and that can only be generated through local, mobilization on a very local level. If it resonates to them, there will be more, of course, there will be more participation, and we will see more activity. Like Veronica said, it is, I think, a good idea that the sensitization starts before the IGF, much before the IGF, on what the locals think. I would like to share an example here. I was speaking about women issues related to internet and technology, how it's empowering them. I was sharing my experience from Pakistan. And in my session, there were young women from Turkey, and they walk up to me later and they say, wow, we have same issues in Turkey as far as women empowerment is concerned, and how they are not exactly allowed to use the technology as they should be, as is everyone's right. So she asked me, how can we counter the problem? And I said, well, locally, every culture is different, of course. So the local people and the local activists, they're the ones who have to take the initiative, and they're the one who need to come forward and get the people together and start a debate about it. So that was my comment. Thank you.
This is really valuable, because one of the dilemmas that I can see is, for instance, if we do webinars, let's say, we can't really do 10,000 webinars, so we should do 2 or 3. If we focus on process and the actors, that's the easiest thing to do. If we go into issues, that takes time, because there's so many issues and it's so complex. That's basically what's discussed here. It's easier to explain what IGF is and why it's important and how to participate. But that's where your comment fits very well. You can't get people with just talking them about IGF because they don't care. So you really have to start motivating them to listen by telling them, listen, someone else has the same problems like you. So that's something we still need to discuss, what comes first.
So that very quickly, just one final comment on this. I think in IGF we have to have a very, very well consolidated outreach strategy. I think without a very well positioned outreach strategy, we are not going to get too far, beyond our comfort zone as a broad IGF community. And in doing so, I think we should be thinking about how IGF becomes serving other international multi-stakeholder initiatives and provide solutions, so that we are able to motivate others to join and really get to understand how, I don't know, any education-related issues can be approached through whatever we are discussing and sharing in the IGF, or government-civil society relations, or business sector-related issues. So I think as long as we are not positioned as a platform that provides solutions for the other sectors, education, government, health, tourism, and in any other sector outside the ICT itself, we are not going to survive for too many years. I'm just being very, very pragmatic in this sense. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, this brings a whole new topic, which we are probably not going to get into now, the outreach. But it's very important, and I think we should bring it in front of MAG, because, and by the way, now I see that on my microphone there is a MAG. It says here MAG, I don't know why. So I think we should bring it to MAG. That's an important issue, and capacity building and participation fits there. Judy?
Thank you, Vlada. Just to add on what Makan was talking about, he was talking about connection, but I'll also add that before the pre-webinars, we need to educate the people how to use the platform itself. Because I think we approached it from that they all know how to use it. And so we gave links, please log in, and yeah, let's meet there, yes, see you there. But yeah, you'd find that as much as they had the connection issue, some of them did not know how to use the platform. Thank you. It's
even more than that. I realize that many people do not know what webinar means. So when you just say a webinar, they're like, okay, whatever. Join our webinar. Okay. Yeah, it's normal to us, but it's not normal to everyone. It's just not common, right? Okay. Should we move? I took some notes. If anyone of you is also taking notes, we'll just share it and try to summarize. Should we move on to orientation session? Brief feedbacks. Okay, I can start. My general feedback is this time was much better timing. We had a full room of people. We might have had more time, maybe than 1.5 hours. We weren't that interactive as I hoped we would, but then again, people approached me and said, even those that were not here for the first time said it was very precious to recapitulate what IGF is about and how we can use it. So in that sense, it was useful, and it seems like we had some overlap with the second part, which was setting the scene. They were not happy with how it went, so we might see how to link the two better to cover both process, practical guiding how to use IGF, and issues. Rose?
I would like to just bring one question to the forum. We're talking about webinars. I would like to know, or I don't know if you've done the assessment, but I'm really interested in knowing that webinar, this tool or methodology, is it suitable for the audiences we are trying to reach here?
Good point. Good point. We didn't do it. Probably we should also try to do in the future the assessment or kind of an evaluation of what people thought about the webinar. Was it useful? Was it not? Right? But also what other tools? And I think what Angelik mentioned, the articles, the newspapers, that sometimes some people don't even use blogs, right? So especially governments and so on. So we should probably try to switch to balance the old media, new media awareness, and local hubs and stuff. But that's a good point. Yeah, who do we reach with that? Yeah. Good.
Yes, I would like to agree with Rose and other comments, and so also what Judy said. We are very much accustomed to use wikis, webinars. The people that we want to reach, they don't. So the idea of the article is great. Also, Fatima translated into Spanish, which is great. Maybe we should use more the events and conferences that are around and give a short talk. It doesn't have to be long, or just to go to the point that there's a space where you can participate and have a say about the future of the internet. Webinar is fine, but also with people that it's somehow involved with technology. I try to introduce with my students a wiki. They are young, they are people of middle class in Argentina, and they were, what is a wiki? Half of them, they didn't know, and I am having difficulties in them accessing the platform, which is a website with a password and a username. So we are trying to reach people that don't know. So we should be more straightforward and basic, and with other more usual ways of communication, like newspapers or other conferences, maybe adding to the webinar.
Just briefly to build on that, I think this goes well into what does the profile or the list of responsibilities of a MUG member consist of. How do you really spread the word about what IGF is, and how do you take advantage of the position you have and really use the other spaces to share? I think that one of the roles of the MUG members would be to take advantage of the other fora and really spread the word that this has to be in the, in the responsibilities of the MUG.
That's also an important question, because there is a lot of work to be done here. So it's a question who is going to do it, and probably the MAG working group. Now, a sub-question: how many of you will stay in MAG? If you know, well, will apply to stay in MAG next year. It's my third mandate, so I'm going out. Olga? Depends on the government. 2 of you are staying, right? I mean, you will reapply, of course, but I mean... Sorry? So you're also out, yeah? Okay. Nika, you're not? Is it also? Gosh, that's not good, huh? That means... Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess none of us is going to just disappear from the support to MAG, obviously, but it's going to be much harder. We need some new people also that want to help that. But
Vlada, the MAG is quite open now. There was a time that we were talking in locked doors, but now we have a list with people that is MAG or non-MAG members or former MAG members. So I think we will be there somehow.
No, I'd rather thought as a psychological pressure. When you're in MAG, you know that you have to do it. When you're not, then you're like, okay, I'll assist, but I can't really drag it along. But yeah, I agree. Sure.
A comment related to the capacity building about MAG members. I think we have to push the idea of the mentorship between the MAG members, between the old MAG members and new MAG members. This is my second year as MAG member, and just in this case, I am feeling a little useful in the MAG. It's very complicated, yeah.
We've been discussing it to really suggest that the mandate of a MAG member can go till 5 years, but we are going to do that only when we are out, right? But anyhow, no, I think, and probably we can link up on the existing capacity building working group. So basically, even if we are out of MAG, I guess the capacity building working group, which we basically founded and pushed for, can go on, and we can be there and try to assist the new ones and try to bring new MAG members as well in, right? Okay, time is running, so let's devote maybe another 10 or 15 minutes to the capacity building track at the IGF, so orientation session, everything, and then we move to initiatives that we do. Orientation session, some comments.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, first of all, thank you for, accepting me or delegating me the task to co-moderate the session together with Vlada. It was a pleasure. There were several positive feedback coming out of the session. There were several people who approached and said it was very useful, especially newcomers who were for the first time. Really, they were very frank and very open and friendly in sharing that this has been really valuable, and now they have a more or less clear picture what IGF is all about and how they should really engage and where to go and what to do during the event. However, I think that for improving the session, one of the things that I would change or I would do differently next year, for example, we have to depart from the idea that whoever comes into the room not everyone is a policymaker. We have practitioners, we have civil society representatives, we have a broad spectrum of people who are doing different kind of things. So in line with this, I think the setting of the room has to be changed. It has to provide more open space for people to engage around those particular issues they are keen to learn more about. For example, just to give an example, imagine, the gallery tour thing. There is a technique which is you have corners, you have people sitting around tables, round tables in the room, and at that particular table you have one expert. For example, you have Jovan. Jovan brings, on his laptop the images and those cool stuff that we had you know, a Diplo, have been using a Diplo for so many years, the visual things about how IGF started, where it started from, what does it look today, where it got today. And everyone who wishes to learn about that approaches Jovan. Anyone who wishes to learn, to find out about best practice, goes to Subi. Anyone who is interested in other, so you give each round like 10 minutes, 12 minutes maximum, and then they rotate. Then they move to another table. So I think in this way people could be more, I mean, we bring this concept of open space and interaction and inclusiveness. We all hear those words, but we don't see how they practically work at the IGF, sorry. And, you know, exposing them to a new format, a new way they could interact and really address those questions they are keen to hear answers on. Because even if we tried to get their input on what motivated them to come, ask them to answer those questions they would like to ask, I mean, there was still limited space for everyone else to engage. There were a few people, and we have to be realistic. Not everyone feels comfortable to pick up the mic and stand up and talk. But, you know, if we are aiming at having a participatory centered IGF, we have to completely change the paradigm of the way sessions are organized. And maybe one of the starting points would be from the orientation session and show how can that really look in practice. So this might be one of the things to think in the future for the orientation sessions.
Thanks. If you remember, we did try to suggest some kind of this bazaar last year. And the problems were practical, but let's try to push it. I totally agree with you. I think this is this would be a breakthrough, like a couple of tables where people can just choose a topic, feel more comfortable to talk and so on. The problem is, with the layout of the room. We could probably take not a main session room. We can't rearrange main session room, and that has always been a problem for some reason. If we don't have a main session room, it's a different feeling. This year, obviously, we had it full room because it was a main session. So the layout is one problem, but we can play around it. The second problem is the transcription and remote participation, right? The third problem is timing, because such a thing needs more than 1.5 hours. So these are all very, very good suggestions. I'm just not sure how it's going to resonate among the IGF Secretariat in the host country, but it depends on us if we manage to push it through. I mean, this year we hardly pushed through the whole thing. We had to repeat again and again that we need orientation session, we need a capacity building roundtable, all these things. So, I mean, it really depends on us and on new MAG members how they are going to push it. But yes, I totally agree, and I think we should put it in comments. Like, this is a suggestion. It can be a special devoted place at the IGF where the capacity building is taking place, starting from the remote, first from your orientation session. Maybe later on some Q&As or some, I don't know, place for experts where experts are going to sit about topics and people can come anytime to ask a question. I don't know. It's a good food for thought.
And just another idea, Vlada, if this is not possible because of the arrangement of the setting of the room, yes, you want to give it more weight, if we put it this way, and you take a main hall or stuff like that. But there is also this idea of open spaces, festival area, and if you manage to have a nice corner somewhere in one of the halls with a microphone, with a stage, with nice, comfortable, mini armchairs, colorful things, some coffee and tea around, then you can have it. And I'm talking from a very practical experience of having done something like this within the Open Government Partnership. And it works. It's absolutely amazing, and it can, just break all the stereotypes about how does a conference look like.
Sounds really good.
So I would be more than happy to, write in details what could be done and how those things could be improved from this
I'm sure Chengetai won't be happy to hear that we need another space, but I'm sorry, but that's a good way around. Yeah, I think so. Julie.
Thank you, Vlada. Some of the comments that I wanted to make, Veronica has already made them, and because one of them was about being able to create confidence among the people who are coming. Yeah, just like she had said, like we have been discussing, when you get into MAG year one, you try to get yourself around, you try to find out who is who do I ask what, year two, and that goes on. And so the same happens with these newcomers who come to the IGF. I mean, there's all this crowd of people, and Judy knows Olga, and she knows Veronica, and she knows, and everywhere I go, it's hi, and this person has never been here, and so there's that fear of like, okay, everyone knows everyone here, But if we could have that small table, I think we did that in Baku. Was it in Baku that we did that? The orientation session where we had the small tables, the technical people, the private sector, and someone would move from table to table. It's easier when they talk to you on a face-to-face. And then I'd also encourage that we look for new guys. Almost everyone knows Jovan. I don't have a problem with him, but almost everyone. But let's look for a new name, a name that they have not seen before, so it will create some interest. Even someone who's been there for the first time, they'll be like, okay, I haven't heard of this one. Let me go and hear what it is. And lastly, well, Veronica is talking about a big space. Okay, let me talk about a small space. Yeah. If we could have even a stand, a booth on orientation session, that even after that we have this small, that describes what IGF is, who is who. These are the capacity building sessions that will be going on, because that's where we are really focusing on. And we constantly have somebody there on that table, that whoever gets there, then they can always find someone, some kind of a feedback. Thank you.
For me, this year was positive, having one only day of orientation session, and at that time, not so early in the morning, because last year didn't work. And I think we need more time, because we need create more interactive session, as Veronica said, maybe 2 hours. And was positive having interpretation in this session this year, and was negative that some people has the microphone a lot of time, and a long time and several times. Maybe then I can say the name of the people of the record. And there is, for me, is lack of interest of the MAG members in the orientation sessions. There was a few MAG members in the orientation session. Maybe this is a positive thing, and I think this is all for now.
Thank you. Well, I think this idea of a kind of a capacity building bazaar place can really run, and we can probably have even time slots where certain experts, certain fields will be around and so on. But okay.
Yes. Okay, I love the coffee and the tea and the cake, of course, and the baklava here, of course. But I think. Compared to the orientation session from last year, I was highly satisfied with the attendance, and I felt that there was a genuine, try to get people more involved, to make it more interactive. Especially at the beginning when questions were posed to the audience. And I think if we have to keep this setting, then we have to do more of that, or we could collect in advance statements from the different stakeholder groups, from their representatives, and then we put that statement out and see how people react to it. So you get people to get up and speak. But if we could do, I really like the idea Veronica proposed of the little small tables where people sit down, and as an idea would, I don't know how practical it would work, but it would be that you could have a rotating mic for the people who are remotely participating. So you tell them up front that you'll move from table to table, and then they can put their questions, so that you can still do that. And then I think also there is people who are there who are for the first time here and they want to contribute, but they don't know how, and they don't know through who. And all our panels are already set in stone. And maybe it would be possible if we would have some flexibility in panels, that there is one space left for somebody who volunteers during the orientation session to make a contribution in a panel, so that people become involved. Because it's true what Veronica said, and Judy, when you come here for the first time, you know nobody and you feel left out. You know, you feel like you're not allowed to contribute, you just sit and listen. And a lot of people, once you involve them, they stay involved, because then it really lives with them and for them. So I would suggest if we could look into that. And then the booth, I really feel for the booth, but also on the practical side, because maybe if you have some extra adapters there and some cables, because we're here with a lot of stuff, and people forget things. But I miss that here. There is no place where you can get the practical things that help you function, in using all our IT tools. So if we could have, if they have that booth, then you also put some practical side to it. Thank you.
Thanks. One thing that I just remembered, why did we move to main session room for the first place was the governments. Because if we want governments, they're not going to sit in lazy bags around. So probably we need a combination of the two. We need some kind of what we had this year as a beginning, where the room is full and it's maybe more ex-cathedra with, of course, more interactivity, but then we also have a space where basically there is another session which doesn't occupy the main room, and throughout the event we have everything. I don't know if that's something that flies.
No, I just wanted to comment on what Vlada was saying. When you move people from one room to another, there's a tendency of losing them.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you say, okay, we continue this in room 3, before I start finding room 3, I'll find something else to do and I'll get lost. Or I'll go for coffee. But I'm thinking, just like the main room looked like this year, if the next main room would look like that, there was a lot of space on the side. We could put tables on the side that after the main introduction of the actors and all that, then people can move to those tables. We can have them marked like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Try chengetai.igf secretariat.
Veronica speaking. Very few comments. If the session format is to be kept as it was this time, I think it's valuable, and you notice that we had a little bit of waiting time before we started. So I think we should explore on this time before we really start the session and engage in an informal way with people in the room. You can have some, I don't know, flip charts on the walls. You can give them some colorful papers with pens and pencils, whatever, to write down why they are here in the room, what their expectations are from the IGF. Is this their first IGF? I mean, to get them busy with starting thinking about what they are doing here at IGF and, at this particular session. So I think exploring on this time before the session starts is really crucial. And there was another idea that popped my mind yesterday in talking to one of the newcomers who was from Uganda. He approached me, he was in the orientation session. Yesterday he stops me on the halls and asks me, okay, I participated in the IGF, tomorrow is the last day, but I don't know what am I going to do, where to start from when I go back home. So this kind of made me think that it might be valuable to have a kind of post or follow-up orientation session, follow-up of the orientation session, and tell the newcomers that there will be a space during the last day of the IGF where they could meet and share whatever whatever reflections they have, and if they have questions about how they can take forward whatever they learned here, whom should they go and talk to when they go home? Is it the civil society? Is it the government? I mean, at least to give, because people feel like they are lost. Yes, I am impressed, it's super, it's great, but where do I start from when I go back home? So I was thinking on whether or not there might be some value in creating this kind of space for people who really have questions at the end of the IGF. Thank you.
I would like to build up on what Angelique said here on the question of people more people participating and how we can get them to participate. Recently, before I was involved in non-profit sector, but now I'm also working with the commercial sector. So I'm going to give a suggestion, which is not too far out probably, but something like food for thought. I would like to stress on the fact that if your story as a speaker is resonating with your audience, the audience will speak. So I think maybe you need to, as MAG members, also focus on, okay, the speakers we are getting, what is their approach? Yeah, I know not everyone is comfortable with public speaking maybe, but still there could be some simple things that the speakers could do in how they start their, or how they present their story or presentation, and that would also help in making it more interactive. I think we really also need to focus on the storytelling aspect of the presentations that are going on.
Thanks. Well, this morning we had a debate session, and it was very valuable to have a person who is expert in debating and public speaking to tell us, listen, this is not the way to put the things. You have to emphasize this way, or you have to focus this way, so that it really attracts the attention and drives the discussion, right?
Yeah, thanks. I had no intention of opening my mouth during this session, but, well, kind of happened anyway. This is the first time I've come to an IGF. I've been attending ICANN, RIPE, various other things for several years, possibly too long. And I come away after about a week here with a few reflections, and it goes to, I think, what you're talking about here, which is kind of participation and everything else. The content at the meeting is fantastic. It's fascinating. It's very good. You've got some fantastic speakers, but some basic things are completely screwed up. There are panels with far too many speakers. You've got 90 minutes and you've got 15 speakers. That's nuts. I don't know who decides on these things, but it really needs to be fixed. I mean, having 15 speakers on a panel is just not workable. It's totally pointless. And if you're sitting in the audience, you're kind of going, right, great, well, they could have just sent me their slide decks, because that would have been more informative. It's almost impossible to work out half the time who the hell is speaking, because a lot of the speakers never introduce themselves, or if they do, they say it so quickly and so incoherently that if you blink, you'd miss it. If the panels and things like that are organized in advance, would it be that hard to print the speakers' names on a piece of paper or something? Because I've walked into sessions, there have been people speaking on the stage, and I have absolutely no idea who the hell they are, where they're coming from, how they're qualified to speak on the subject. They could be somebody that I've been playing email ping pong with over the last 10 years, but I've never actually met in person. I wouldn't know. And the name badges here are tiny, so you've got no hope in hell of working out when you're walking down the corridor who the hell anybody is. Oh, and also in terms of the remote participation, the Wi-Fi completely broke that. One of the sessions I was involved with on Monday, or not, Tuesday, sorry, several of the ICANN community were trying to follow the session from various parts of the globe, so they got up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to try to follow the session and couldn't, because everything was going over the Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi was completely, well, broken. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I mean, firstly, I'll encourage you to after lunch, go to the main session where there is an open microphone, and please repeat all of that. We'll definitely convey it, but please repeat all of that. Well, I mean, it's a couple of us in the MAG, and I think for like 2 or 3 years we've been fighting hard to have as less people speakers at panels as possible. And it was always like, let's do an open session with no speakers. And I was like, okay, but we have to have a keynote speaker. Okay, let's have a keynote speaker. But then, yeah, but I think this one is better. No, this one is better. But this one is VIP. So we have 3. Okay, no, we have 5. And we always end up in 20. And I think this is something the capacity building group should push as well. And I totally agree with you. I mean, we have been trying, and you always have VIPs and VIPs of VIPs, and those people really know the matter they should be speaking, and you end up with it. And we couple of times we said, we don't need names. We don't want names. We want open discussion. We want, these kind of things. No more than 6 people. No more than 2 minutes interventions. It not always goes through. And I totally agree with you. I think we share the same concern. We'll tell it once again, but please repeat it at the open mic session after the lunch. Yeah, very, very valuable. Rose.
I would just like to add that also it would be great if the MAG members or whoever filters the speakers, if they could ask them maybe next time, like other conferences do, if they have a link to their previous presentations or recording or something like that, so you can assess how they speak and if the audience falls asleep within 5 minutes or not. I think that's very important. That's also, yeah. Thank you.
Good point. Okay, should we wrap up this part on the capacity building track? Well, basically, besides that, we had capacity building sessions, but that's something that went on this time as well, marking the sessions which are capacity building related. And if we have some kind of a bazaar, these could be also promoted and so on. I think this can work. And this roundtable, I think we just need to work more. This time we almost finished without this roundtable. I think it's really precious to have it. So we just should keep on trying to have it in the schedule and to even announce it wider, that it's not only us talking about the capacity building track, but also really, really exchanging experiences, right? Any other questions on that? Should we move on? If there are no other questions or comments on that, let's move on how do we promote more, as we would say, intersessional work, the capacity building programs between the IGF, not necessarily linked to the IGF, right? All the institutions, organizations. And last year we had about 10 organizations which were there and individuals sharing what they do. We agreed that we are going to put up a list, a form, which everyone is going to fill in and try to post on the website, so that we have a couple of materials, what programs exist, who does what, when, how to apply, and so on. Unfortunately, no one took a lead, and I also am guilty for that because I didn't. We thought maybe the Secretariat would, we were not sure how it goes. Even Dessa wanted to take a lead. It seems like we should. There is space with the Friends of the IGF, there is space at the IGF website. Maybe we can just do a quick round but very quick round of if someone wants to share what are the new things we do, those of us that do capacity building, just to update ourselves and maybe what we have heard that's happening. And then how do we push coordination among ourselves and maybe visibility of these programs really within the IGF, so that people know that between the IGFs there are many programs they can take on a national, regional level and so on. Olga, you wanted to share bits and pieces of your new focus and programs, just shortly.
Thank you. Thank you, Vlada. Well, the school is running again this year in Costa Rica in April. We have trained so far more than 650 professionals, and of course, one main focus of the training is IGF and ICANN. And they all receive fellowships, all of them. And it's important to know that there are people that don't know. They know after. They say, oh, I didn't know that you grant fellowship. We have to apply. So more visibility to what Diplo does, what ISOC, what we do, is needed, because after the people come and regret that they didn't know at that time. So the school that you already know is still moving on. Since 2012, we have remote participation with channels in English and Spanish. So it's not only limited to those that receive the grant. You can also do it online. And in some sessions, we had a very high, of course it depends on, it's a long program, 5 days, full day. So some sessions are highly attended, some others not that much, but it's available. And it's expensive as a translation, so it should be more promoted so people can really profit from that. Now we have also, with the same organization, not-for-profit organization that organizes the school, we have a online training program in English and Spanish. It's not simultaneous, and then we have training sessions, 1 per week, in a 7-session scheme. So that is more for professionals, or maybe for government officials. We are starting with that now in September. We do it every 2 months. Also, after the people know it, oh yeah, that's very interesting, but I didn't know that you had developed such a program. Or when they come to the IGF and they say, I don't know nothing, but you have the ISO training, you have Diplo training, you have the School of Internet. Oh, I didn't know. So I think that we should promote more the programs that we have. And now we are working, and this is more work that I do in Argentina with the National Center of Engineers, and this we have partnered with UNESCO. It's for promoting the engineering career among women. Of course, as I am leading that, I will do some bias towards internet governance and the role of the internet and training in the internet in the program. I'm trying to see how to do that. We want to develop some materials for young girls, because we think that's a big opportunity for working. That's a working opportunity for women in Latin America. Latin America needs more engineers, and there are few engineers who are women. So we think there's a working opportunity there, well-paid work, highly demanded, and with an international visibility and work in any country that you want. So I will stop here, and this is what we have been working on.
Thank you. It's really precious to know, and that's something that should be probably in that form that we circulate around capacity building initiatives. It is, what are the focus topics? And you mentioned about the IGF and ICANN issues. What are the target groups? Ones are the governments, ones are the girls, and so on. So just to try to outline all of that for all the programs, so that we know where regionally or geographically it is taking place and so on, whether there are scholarships and so on. These are the things we should collect, right? Anyone else want to share some capacity building work? I can do maybe very briefly for Diplo. Geneva Internet Platform, Teresa is here, is trying to bring the diplomats which are in Geneva missions, but also the other professionals in Geneva, closer to internet governance, ICANN issues and so on. We give them updates, training programs, occasional meetings in Geneva, but it's also broadcasted. I mean, the webinars are open for everyone around the world. So we're trying to target more MFAs, missions and so on. That's in a way the focus, to bring them in the process. And there are a couple of other initiatives like the cybersecurity program for West Balkans now, probably some capacity building, regional capacity building programs, mostly online and so on around the world, but that's more or less it. So we'll also try to bring a couple of updates in the table that we provide. Anyone else wants to share, or you have any ideas how can we boost the visibility further of these kind of programs? Nika.
Just very briefly, I just wanted to share about the kind of efforts we have back in Moldova as a non-governmental organization, having to deliver informal kind of capacity building to representatives of the government. I'm talking about the Ministry of ICT. So on a regular basis, we have an agreement with the ministry that at least once in 3-4 months, the Open Government Institute organizes a workshop to update chiefs of the departments within the Ministry of ICT about the IG-related issues, what's on the broader global agenda. Similarly, we are coordinating a civil society working group on e-government, and as part of that, we also address the internet governance. So it's for the civil society. Whenever we have our working meetings, we share updates. So this is just to share with you how you can still build the capacity back in your home countries without not necessarily having huge resources. But this works well because it's about the partnership between both civil society and the government, and it's sharing of know-hows, and it's really good for strengthening the partnerships between both government and civil society organizations. And we don't have any funding, any resources from anyone.
Thanks. One idea now that I got is another way to promote would be, now that we have the best practices forum at the IGF, that one of the topics of the best practices forum should be capacity building, national, regional level specifically, well, on global as well, but also on national, regional level. Makane?
Yes, I think that it will be good to make this information available at the various regional initiatives think they have websites available, they have portals where really it will be good to have them. In Africa, we are developing a new website for the African IGF, which will be launched next week. And I think it will be good to have all your information to link it up there so that people can have access and be directed to the resources and activities which will be held. Thank you.
So again, probably a good suggestion to try to link the promotion as well with the national regional IGFs, because that's where the benefit is also quite high, right? So that's something we do within MAG, if we can. Rose?
Yep, Rose, I have another suggestion here. You've tried webinars to raise awareness. What we are with my organization, Chunri Chopal, what we are planning to do in future, because we work with rural women, what we are and young girls, of course, what we are hoping to do is have a sort of MOOC style, like massive online open course style videos, but then it's facilitated by a facilitator as such if we cannot find a trainer because of several barriers, culturals or whatever. So my suggestion is, have you tried maybe making short videos, short snappy videos that people who are holding these events, they can use at their events, and they don't have to be, that the key is to keep them short, of course, because otherwise it's the same, you know, boring speakers, boring videos. So I think that's one suggestion if you've tried it or not, but that could work as well.
Thanks, great idea. I mean, we do have a number of videos and books and materials and comics in Diplo, but I think that's the point, is that besides promoting or making a repository of capacity building programs, we should also have a repository of materials, which means not only learning the materials, but also this kind of awareness raising materials that people can use. So I think that's a good idea to try to, and then again, we could link with Friends of the IGF, which are very flexible in putting it on a website, so that we can just make a collection of materials. Nika.
Veronica, for the record, I just wanted to ask whether there is any intensive social media promotion of the capacity building. If there is I mean, maybe it's worth thinking about, I don't know, a Facebook page where that would promote all the IG capacity building programs that exist regionally, globally, you know, Diplo, whatever Olga shared about, and, you know, gain as many likes and friends, and then they could follow updates and they could follow, you know, the open calls and stuff like that. A hashtag or, you know, tweet about that. I mean, get online and get to those who are not yet part of this, but still.
One thing we can check is whether Secretariat is at all active on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, they're active only during the IGF. Active, no, they send something. But their hashtag or something we can do. If they have a Facebook page, I don't know, but if they have. But maybe that's the channel. Should we do another one, or should we rather try to build it within that one? Yeah. Well, let's see. Okay, any other comments? It's time to close it shortly. Any other comments, anything? Anyone?
Question, I'm not following that issue. What's the status of the Friends of the IGF work? My idea was that they were going to make a new website but I don't know. Where is that?
As far as I understood, I missed the meeting this morning, but as far as I understood, the idea is that the IGF website stays as it is because it is a UN system. Huh? But on the other hand, we have a more dynamic website, which is a repository of all the transcripts, videos, everything about the IGF, records and everything, which is more dynamic. So they run in parallel, but they are officially linked as kind of an open one, like Friends of the IGF. It's not the UN, but it is formally associated with the IGF. So the idea is that basically, as much as possible for dynamic content, we use this kind of content. We use Friends of the IGF, right? So I think for the repository of materials and capacity building programs, which is just a set of links which sometimes we update, I think we should use IGF's website as well, because it's not a big deal. But maybe for some other things, if we want to make, I don't know what, then we can use Friends of the IGF, a bit more of dynamic content, maybe some pages, discussions, I don't know, we can discuss with them. But that's, as far as I understood them, that's in a way the point. Let's see. Okay? No more questions, huh? Should we wrap up here? Fatima, did you manage to take notes? Are you going to do the report again, as you did excellent report last year? I will send you. I have a note, so I'll send you so you can work on a report, and then a big one and then a short one, and then we can try to share it with the MAG, and probably also today just bits of snapshots of yesterday. No, I'm kidding. No rush. We'll just present it today at MAG and probably open mic if someone wants, and then we can follow up on that in the next week or two or whatever, to send the updates. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, and we work on this further. Thanks. See you.